Now, the cold weather could be to blame for a man's death. A local group says a homeless man froze to death at a bus stop in downtown Cincinnati.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that it was not the weather. It wasn't the cold weather that caused this man's demise. It was the lack of agencies coming together to ensure that everyone is protected 24 hours a day through all seasons. Um, and for someone to die at a bus stop um, in one of the most frigid cold snaps we've had um, this winter, it's just inexcusable. It's just totally inexcusable. Um, there's no way that if everything were running as smoothly as it should be, that this would happen to anyone. But it happened in Cincinnati to a man who knew the ins and outs. He had struggled with substance abuse. Um, he worked with an agency, I believe they're Maslow's Army, and he even came back and gave his time. Um, but for him to die outside at a bus stop shows that no one, no one is invincible. When you're homeless, you have to uh, dot every I, cross every T if you're working with anyone in the homeless community because it could happen to any of us. But I want to continue looking at this story.
Now on your sides, Evan Millward is live in the newsroom, and he just got off the phone with him. Evan, what happened?
Yeah, Ryan, I did just get off the phone with the CEO of Maslow's Army. That is that group we've profiled here before. They volunteer to feed and clothe needy folks every week at Fountain Square. Ken Martin was the first person they met, and he would turn into one of their most dedicated volunteers. This case is drawing outrage now from city leaders, too. Councilman Chris Seelbach tweeted earlier, quote, "We must do better. PG Sittenfeld told me this morning City Hall should be part of a process to ensure that we have a 24-hour shelter for people." Temperatures dropped to 21 degrees Monday night, but with the wind chill, it felt like 12. And we know Ken Martin was found early yesterday morning. Maslow's Army believes he died sometime in the overnight hours. They plan to honor him every Sunday during their outreach program next month.
Okay, Cincinnati is one Midwestern town that's outraged, but that's just a microcosm of what's going on throughout the world, throughout our country, in many cities. Every city should be outraged. This should be a wake-up call to everyone that every city needs a space where people can go 24 hours, a 24-hour all-season space where people can go and get themselves back on track and not fear having to be outside in the elements at any point, but especially during times when the weather is such that it would be difficult for anyone to survive the temperatures. For this man who knew the ropes to freeze to death at a bus stop just shows that there's just so much that's lacking, and that we need to give so much more attention to members who are experiencing lives with no home. I had expressed concern about this problem earlier. So, hey guys, I'm sitting here, it's Christmas Eve at Starbucks. Got me a little Starbucks cup. But I'm thinking about a problem that happens just about every day of the year in the homeless community. And it's a shame that it's happening now at the end of the year. Starbucks is going to close at 6. A lot of the stores are closing early because it's New Year's. Well, Christmas Eve. And people don't have any place to go because Delanus doesn't open until 8. The nearest shelter doesn't open until 8. So we've got this cold weather and this gap where people are going to be on the streets with no place to go. Why can't we fix that? I mean, I really don't understand why people can't connect the dots. I just talked to someone who has no place to go for those 2 hours until the Delana Center opens. So, that person's going to be walking around in the cold. Yeah, so that was Christmas Eve. I was sitting in Starbucks, and I was just feeling outraged that day that a woman I spoke to was saying she didn't have any place to go after Starbucks closed. Um, and I think she probably hustled around and found a place to go, but it wasn't a given. There's so many gaps in the system. There's so many gaps that people can fall through. And there's just no excuse. We just have to do better. But closer to home, there was another tragedy. I don't have any live footage on it, but this man died outside of a church in Detroit. But that could have been in any community, because these churches have the idea that if people sleep outside, that they're somehow safe. But the churches need to step up and recognize that being outside does not shelter you from the elements, that you're still vulnerable, as in this very tragic case in Detroit that happened. I'm really sensitive to it because I lost a friend who slept outside of a church. Like as I said, 2018, I'm calling out the churches, I'm calling out everybody that I think may be in any way responsible or is playing a role in preventing people's lives, from being lost, from sleeping in the elements. Our government, our city government, and our local churches, and the community at large needs to come together and stop piecemealing things together, and once and for all build a space where people can go and feel safe throughout the year, during any season, at any time. I can't say everything in this video that I'd like to, but I will be posting more. Like I said, this happened last night and I just had to get up. But on this whole idea of people freezing to death, it's no joke, and it deserves a lot more attention. And I'm going to go into it in further detail in future videos. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you next time.